format. The tabernacle was made from the holies of holies, then the holy place, and then the outer court. So we find that in the making of the clothing for the high priest, they started with the high priest. Then from the high priest, they made the priest garments. And so what we see then is that holies of holies, the things came first. So holiness in our life should be the first thing before we dabble into all the other parts. But we want to make sure that the temple is holy. Won't you hold them so if somebody come in, they will have them. So that they are holy and we do the right things right. All right, as we always do, and I don't know who's got the microphone, but we're going to start reading the first 10 verses. Whoever have the microphone.
And of the blue and
That's
purple.
in chapter 39 of Exodus.
And of the blue and purple and scarlet, they made cloths of service to do service in the holy place, and made the holy garments for Aaron as the Lord commanded Moses. And he made the ephod of gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. And they did beat the gold into thin plates, and cut it into wire to work it in the blue, and the purple, and the scarlet, and the fine linen with cunning work. They made shoulder pieces for it to couple it together. By the two edges was it coupled together. And the curious girdle of his ephod that was upon it was of the same according to the work thereof, of gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen, as the Lord commanded Moses. And they wrought onyx stones enclosed in ouches of gold, graven as signet are graven with the names of the children of Israel. And he put them on the shoulders of the ephod, that they should be stones for a memorial to the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses, and made the breastplate of cunning work, like the work of the ephod, of gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. And it was 4 square. They made the breastplate double. A span was the length thereof, and a span the breadth thereof, being doubled. And they set in it 4 rows of stones. The first row was sardius and topaz and a carbuncle. This was the first row.
All right, now, you all have the paper. We've been over this before, so I shouldn't have to spend a lot of time on it. But they started off with the breastplate and with the ephod. The ephod is this little jacket that we would call it, that goes, it's just got the hinges here, hinges there, and comes here. And outside of the ephod was what they called the breastplate with the stones in it. Now all the stones represented a tribe, each stone for a tribe. But the name was not written on these stones. The name was written, you had 6 stones here and 6 stones there with their names on them. All of this, the blue, the purple, the linen, and the linen, blue and purple, and the gold. Now here's what is amazing. I don't know, maybe you didn't think about it, but can you imagine in the wilderness with no machines, no motors, no electricity, that they were able to make fine thread out of metal and to sew and embroider all of this together and to put the gird on. This is the robe, to put that on, and then the robe behind this. So the ephod, this is what holds it up. This is the ephod, and these are the stones and stuff in it. Now, to do all of that without any type of mechanical stuff, it's almost unimaginable. How could they make gold, metal, out of thread? make a thread out of that? Well, God did give us the answer. Who knows the answer?
God did it.
No, he didn't. God didn't do it.
God enabled them. He said he enabled them.
It's another word I want to use instead of enable. You're on it, but that's the other word. He gave them the Holy Spirit. He put a spirit in them for to do that work. And he, remember Ahola? Y'all remember him? And the other one, he gave them the Holy Spirit to do that. And he anointed them with the Holy Spirit so that they could do all this crafty type of work. But they didn't do it by themselves. They organized people and got the job done.
Amen.
Because I know that it had to be a miracle from God for to make metal into thread, that they would sew these garments together. And then we're going to find out that this is the ephod, this is the breastplate, and this is the girdle, and they call it the gird. We are going to talk about the tam, then we'll call it the tam, they call it the mitres, and all of these things. We're going to find out exactly what they did. And then this robe, and they're going to even see what they did about that. All of these things were handcrafted in the wilderness in the middle of the desert. And now what I want you to understand, when we get through with this tonight, you may think that you know the tabernacle. There's so much more that I am not covering in here, that'll be covered little by little, but not in a systematic way. We didn't cover the length of the tabernacle. We didn't cover what it meant. We did not cover the inside lining, the red, the blue, the purple, the goat hair, and the badger skin. What was their purpose in this for the holy place and the holies of holies? We did not discuss and will not discuss yet. I'll just let you figure it out. Did it ever rain in those 40 years on the tabernacle and inside of it? Did it ever get flooded out? Okay, that's something for you to look up, find out, because all of the thing had a purpose. And so we're just basically, you haven't gotten to the depth of it, but we did give you enough picture, whereas that in every book hereafter, you would be able to match the articles and the tabernacle if you are really getting this. All right, let's get the next 10 verses.
And the second row an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row a ligure and agate and a amethyst. And the fourth row a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper. They were enclosed in ouches of gold in their enclosing. And the stones were according to the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engravings of a signet, everyone with his name according to the 12 tribes. And they made upon the breastplate chains at the end of brethren work of pure gold. And they made 2 ouches of gold and 2 gold rings, and put the 2 rings in the 2 ends of the breastplate. And they put the 2 brethren chains of gold in the 2 rings on the end of the breastplate, and the 2 ends of 2 ouches, and put them on the shoulder pieces and the ephod before it. And they made 2 rings of gold and put them on the 2 ends of the breastplate upon the border of it, which was on the side of the ephod inward. And they made 2 other golden rings and put them on the 2 sides of the ephod underneath towards the fore part of it, over against the other coupling thereof, above the curious girdle of the ephod. Ephod.
All right. Now, when we, there is a thing on the back, I believe. Let me make sure. Look on the back. On yours, you have all the names. You have all the names where what was what. Now, on your picture, you see all the names there on your pictures. So you see that what they was talking about, if you look at it and you go down from the head, or either we can start from the colors of the stone. Now the stones had the different colors, but the name was written in gold under the stone. And only the high priest knew what name was under the stone. So if he wanted to talk to God about a certain tribe, he would touch that stone. We haven't got to under the stone, under the ephod, under here, under the breastplate, under here on each side was stones that was not put in, was not revealed to the tribe. And those are two stones that did the lighting. We call them the what? And Thuma. And so he would touch one of the stones here. If whatever tribe he was praying for or had problem with, he would touch that stone and then say, Lord, what do you want me to do? And it was a yes or no answer. Should they be punished? Should they move on? Or how should I handle that? And the stone would light up, yes or no. They call them lights. They would light up, yes or no. So that shows you that God was speaking to man in various manners from the beginning. He never left us alone. He never left us alone. It's only now in this generation that people feel that God forsake them and that they is alone with God. But the children of Israel knew. They feared God. They knew that God. As a matter of fact, if you think about this, remember when Moses said that God said he was not going to lead them, he's going to send an angel? They was really, disturbed by that. They prayed and they asked Moses to go to God and tell him that we want him to lead us. We don't want the angels to lead us through this wilderness. And so that's what had to happen. And so it gives you the name of all the stones. It gives you what that's what tribe they represented. But the tribe themselves at that time did not know it. Then it's talked about the rings on the side that the censer went through. We call it censer now. They call it a girdle. But that it went through it. So here it is here, what's hanging out in front. But it had to have those loops in the back to hold it. Up here was loops. They had loop on each side to hold the gold and the gold of the names that was in each one of them. And remember it said ounces, right? So it put gold there and those gold. Now, what can you imagine? What was the weight of all this garment that the high priest had to put on? But then when he said, you remember Isaiah said the government was on his shoulder? He had the whole tribe on his shoulder. That's what he was talking about. The government's up on his shoulder. The whole tribe is on his shoulder. And all the prayers of here, they're there on his shoulder. The ephod is on his shoulder. It's hooked from there to there. But the ephod also had to be put on over the robe. And then you had the extra robe that goes down to below the knee, and then the one at their feet, and then the sandals. So he might have been walking around with 100 pounds of clothes on. All right, let's get the next verse, 21 through 30.
They tied the rings of the breastpiece to the rings of the ephod with blue cord, connecting it to the waistband, so that the breastpiece would not swing out from the ephod, as the Lord commanded Moses. They made the robe of the ephod entirely of blue cloth, the work of a weaver, with an opening in the center of the robe like the opening of a collar, and a band around this opening so that it would not tear. They made pomegranates of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn and finely twisted linen around the hem of the robe. And they made bales of pure gold and attached them around the hem between the pomegranates. The bales and pomegranates alternated around the hem of the robe to be worn for ministering, as the Lord commanded Moses. For Aaron and his sons, they made tunics of fine linen, the work of a weaver, and the turban of fine linen, the linen headbands and the undergarments of finely twisted linen. The sash was of finely twisted linen and blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, the work of an embroiderer, as the Lord commanded Moses. They made the plate, the sacred diadem, out of pure gold, and engraved on it, like an inscription on a seal, holy to the Lord. Then they fastened a blue cord to it to attach it to the turban, as the Lord commanded Moses.
All right, now, this is the mitras here. But, and you see the blue going through the center. But then the bottom of this is, see what they call it? The bottom is, what we got? I'll just tell you what it is right now. So I look at it. Boom. Mitras. Oh, man, this is another thing we got to. Okay, it was called the gardo, the gardo for the forehead. And that went around the forehead, and this is the mitras here that was on top. And it was linen, and not only linen, the mitras, I mean the thing that was going around here, I just said, which is the garden, this was pure gold. Why would they have the pure gold going around the forehead of the high priest? What the gold is? Deity. And so he had that, and what is the linen is? Who can still remember the linen? What is linen? White is what? Purity. Blue? Heavenly. All right, thank you. All right, so you see all of the colors are here. Then you come down to the end of the robe, which had pomegranates and bells. Now, these balls was not just down here, but they had a twofold purpose. What was the first one of the purpose?
You know, if he died when he went into the Holy of Holies, if the bell stopped, it was a problem, he was dead.
They would pull him out because he was dead. The second purpose, to hold the robe down so it wasn't blowing. Okay. All right, so that's what I would tell you too. I mean, can you imagine God, can you outthink God? No. Now, the high priest did that, but when we get to these fellows, they didn't have that. And because they didn't have that, when they would go from here to there to wash the animals and themselves, God told them to put on some breeches. He made breeches for them because their behind would be out. But the high priest never had to go there because he ministered, he did all of his ministering to them, to train them and to teach them and to pray for the people and take the request. But these are the people that did the work, which was the priests, the Levites, and the women did their part for the cleaning up these things. Everybody had a job. Everybody had a job. Everybody. Nobody had what we call recreation time that they just laid up. There were no couch potatoes in the wilderness. No couch potatoes in the wilderness. Nobody picked their job. He assigned their job by their tribe. So everybody knew what they had to do. And they did their job for the complete the purpose. All right? And the engravement and the signet was holy to the Lord. All right, verse 31.
And they tied unto it a lace of blue, to fasten it on high upon the mitre, as the Lord commanded Moses. Thus was all the work of the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation finished, and the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So did they. And they brought the tabernacle into Moses, the tent, and all his furniture, his taches, his boards, his bars, and his pillars, and his sockets, and the covering of ram skins dyed red, and the covering of badger skins, and the veil of the covering, the ark of the testimony, and the staves thereof, and the mercy seat, the table, and all the vessels thereof, and the shewbread, the pure candlestick, with the lamps thereof, even with the lamps to be set in order, and all the vessels thereof, and the oil for light, and the golden altar, and the anointing oil, and the sweet incense, and the hanging for the tabernacle door, the brassen altar, and his grate of brass, his staves, and all his vessels, the laver and his foot,
Go ahead and finish it.
the hangings of the court, his pillars and his sockets, and the hanging for the court gate, his cords and his pins, and all the vessels of the service of the tabernacle, for the tent of the congregation, the cloths of service to do service in the holy place, and the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and his sons' garments to minister in the priest's office, according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So the children of Israel made all the work. And Moses did look upon all the work, and behold, they had done it as the Lord had commanded. Even so had they done it, and Moses blessed them.
All right, Moses blessed them. They finished. Okay, there's one thing that I would like for you all to remember. This is the only time that a group of people worked together and did everything that God said to do together. They did everything. See what verse I said that they did that. It was one of the verse, I believe it was verse 30. That was all the work of the tabernacle of the tent. But let's see, verse 31. And they tied into a lace blue and fastened it upon it. But I want to get to where so they did all of it together.
I think it was back in, that was in the previous chapter.
Yeah, no, the same chapter. Verse 30, and they brought the tabernacle and tent to, and its boards and the current, and the ark of testimony table. Well, but they did everything that God asked them to do. They did it everything. Which verse is that? 41, 42. And the cloth of service and the holy place and the holy garment for Aaron and the priest and his son's garment to minister, okay? According to all that the Lord commanded Moses, so the children of Israel made all the work. Yes.
Pastor, in 42:3, it says, and Moses blessed them. Why, what do that mean?
Okay, it means that Moses was standing in the stead of God. So he blessed them for doing the work of God in harmony and in peace. That means he prayed that God would bless their families. And blessing means to glorify, and it means to exalt people. When we praise God and glorify God, we're exalting him, and we're praising him for who he is. Yes.
So, can we can bless somebody? I mean, as far as
You can bless people. You can ask God blessing on folks. Matter of fact, I think we almost do it every Sunday. God bless you.
yeah. Oh, okay.
I mean, is that just redundant? That's something that you just,
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay.
But I mean, you do it and you don't even think about what you're doing. God bless you. So that's saying that God do something special for you, or God be upon you. So we do that. Yeah, we can bless people. So they finished everything exactly the way God said to do it. Now, from here on, that won't happen no more in the Bible. That don't even happen now.
You mean doing everything God said do?
Everything that God said do and doing it exactly like God said do it. There's none of us that does exactly what God wants us to do without interjecting ourselves in it. We got to interject ourselves in. Well, I did this, or I'm the one did this, or they left me out. But you heard none of this. Think about this. For just the 40 days that God showed Moses this, and they come back. Now, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that we didn't see. And I don't know. I haven't seen it. Maybe somebody can find it. I have never seen it. It didn't tell us how long it took them to do it.
Right, or whether anybody died during that time.
It didn't tell you how much they accomplished each day. It might have took a year to put that robe together. the priestly garment together.
Make gold and make thread out of gold. Yeah.
So, but everything that we do, it's got to be on a time. And if we take too much of time, the people get stalemate and say, well, it ain't worth doing no more. All the fun of doing it is out. But we don't know how long. Okay? We do know that for the colors, the purple, the blue, they had to catch fishes and get that from fishes. The colors came from that. The linen from cotton. Where did they plant the cotton? Where did they get the cotton? Did they bring enough cotton from Egypt to do it? We know they didn't go back to get it. So there are some unexplained things. Or did God provide the cotton? Just, provide a big pile where they could get it? We don't know. But that's, you know what? What we don't know, we shouldn't worry about because God didn't want us to know it. But the problem we have now, we got to know everything before we start. And that's why we don't even get started. Because this one said, I wanted this color. No, that ain't the right color. So they spent a week arguing about a color. And then they said, well, we're going to all have this and that. You take another week arguing about what I don't think we should do it that way. You shouldn't ask that much and da-da-da-da-da. They gave more and they had to stop them from giving. They had to stop them from giving. I don't think in my lifetime God going to let me live that long. That I have to tell you all, don't give no more. You gave enough. We don't need nothing else. It don't make no difference if I fast 40 days and I have light on my face. That ain't going to happen. Now, so all of this, the houses, the tents, and you see that they got them covered in badger skin, all of them. Okay, when we get to Numbers, all of this will be explained. In Leviticus, all of this will be explained. What they actually did, what was sin, how was sin correlated, etc. It all will be explained. The high priests have been illuminated here. He is in charge of all of this. Moses and the high priest, they met God here. The high priest only met him here once a year unless he was summoned. If he was summoned with Moses for something for the children of Israel to do or didn't do, then the high priest would have to go to the mercy seat. Any questions in chapter 39?
Just Pastor, that I noticed that you were talking about the bells and they stopped ringing, but they never mentioned anything about the rope they put around his leg to pull him out.
No, but they would have it, and it was the priest that would pull him out. They put the rope on before he went in. And if they didn't hear the bells ringing, they know he was dead. Yes. And then they would pull him out. But as long as the bells was ringing, they was happy because they know their sin was being atoned for.
Well, he was worthy to stand in the presence of God.
Yeah, he had to do a lot of rituals to do that before he went in himself. He had to get himself right and then I'll make sure that all the people was right and that he administered them for that year. And all the folks had to at least bring one offering to the to the tabernacle for every family once a year. Once a year they had to do it. All right, let's go to chapter 40, last one. We want to get the first 10 verses. So this is the setting up of the tabernacle. We've been through this, but now let's go through it again.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, On the first day of the first month shalt thou set up the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation. And thou shalt put therein the ark of the testimony, and cover the ark with the veil. And thou shalt bring in the table, and set in order the things that are to be set in order upon it. And thou shalt bring in the candlestick, and the light, the lamps thereof. And thou shalt set the altar of gold for the incense before the ark of the testimony, and put the hanging of the door to the tabernacle. And thou shalt set the altar of the burnt offering before the door of the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation. And thou shalt set the laver between the tent of the congregation and the altar, and shalt put water therein. And thou shalt set up the court round about, and hang up the hanging at the court gate. And thou shalt take the anointing oil, and anoint the tabernacle, and all that is therein, and shall hallow it, and all the vessels thereof, and it shall be holy. And thou shalt anoint the altar of the burnt offering, and all his vessels, and sanctify the altar, and it shall be an altar most holy.
All right, now, note what God did. He set this up. They set the furniture in. Mercy seat. They set in, we put the mantle and all the other stuff in. Put the altar, this is the altar of incense, right outside of the holy place. The curtains was up. Then they go through here with the candlesticks, the showbread, and this is where the priest was in. They set this up. Then they come outside. They set up the laver. Then they set up the altar, the labor, and everything here, and the gate. So everything now is set up. It's set up. They got the furniture. You know how everything from here to there is overlaid with gold. Every piece of furniture from the altar, from the holies of holies to the holy place is overlaid with gold. Everything out here is brass. Everything out here has no measurement. They didn't measure the altar. They did not put a measurement to the laver, because this is judgment. So you can't measure sin. So here, everything was measured. The candlestick was measured. The showbread table was measured. The altar was measured. The ark was measured. Everything was measured. The angels was measured. They was beat. Now think about this. This was unbelievable for humans to understand. The altar, the ark, the angels, both angels, the cherubim, was all made from one piece of gold. One piece of gold. The candlestick here was all made from one piece of gold. Was nothing tied in. One piece of gold. I tell you that God is not divided. He's not divided. He's one. So all of these things have their symbols. And so the furniture, now they got everything here. So let's look at what is next going to come then in verse 11.
And thou shalt anoint the laver and his foot, and sanctify it. And thou shalt bring
That's
Aaron.
this right here, the labor, anoint it and his foot. Uh-huh.
And thou shalt bring Aaron and his sons unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and wash them with water.
Wash him with water, purify.
And thou shalt put upon Aaron the holy garment, and anoint him, and sanctify him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt bring his sons, and clothe them with coats.
All right, see, all they had on is coats. None of this they had on. They couldn't work. Ain't no way they could work with all of that on. So they just got the coats. Uh-huh.
And thou shalt anoint them as thou didst anoint their father.
Okay, I want you to hear this word. How many times they repeat the word anoint? Anoint them, anoint this, anoint that. What is this telling us? How did this translate over to now?
Don't do anything without the Holy Spirit.
Okay, the people that works in the ministry should be anointed. That's what it's saying. They should be anointed for their job. What do you think? And that's just hypothetical, not thrown out at anybody. But what do you think if one of those preachers had to show up late? He'd been dead. He would never had to be late no more. Because he didn't never repeat it. He didn't say to do this or do that. They knew what they had to do. Okay, go ahead, read.
And thou shalt anoint them as thou didst anoint their father, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office, for their anointing shall surely be an everlasting priesthood throughout their generations. Thus did Moses, according to all that the Lord commanded him, so did he. And it came to pass in the first month, in the second year, on the first day of the month, that the tabernacle was reared up. And Moses reared up the tabernacle, and fastened his sockets, and set up the boards thereof, and put in the bars thereof, and reared up his pillars. And he spread abroad the tent over the tabernacle, and put the covering of the tent above upon it, as the Lord commanded Moses.
All right. Now they got the tent, they put this up, all of these things up. Now, they got this open for just for you to see in, but actually it's covered. The people could not see in to see what was in there. These priests that was out here never went inside of here. The priests that was out here went inside of here. They never went beyond this curtain. Now, that would be hard. There's been so many of us dead because they told us not to go and can't look behind that door. And you just say, I got to take one peek. And you've been dead. They've been dragging you out. But they lived all of their lives and they came here and never could go beyond that, the place, the holies of holies. Never. And didn't happen, it wouldn't happen probably to one. If he peeped in, they saw he died, they said, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to, because they could not go, only the high priest and Moses could go in. Joshua was able to go in with Moses because he was his servant. And Moses took Joshua up to when he went to visit God. But Joshua didn't get a chance to see God. All right? So, go ahead and read.
Verse 21. Oh, verse 20.
Yeah, 20.
And he took and put the testimony into the ark, and set the staves on the ark, and put the mercy seat above upon the ark. And he brought the ark into the tabernacle, and set up the veil of the covering. And
Okay, watch this. Now, he didn't build the ark in the tabernacle.
Oh.
He built it outside and brought it in.
Okay.
He built it outside and brought it in. Before you can go in God's presence, you have to be already holy. You can't go in God's presence and unless they are ordaining you to get holy. They can't ordain you to get holy. They can sanctify you for a position. But you have to be holy before you can enter God's presence. You can get on your knees, you can scream, you can holler, you can cry, but if you're not holy and you haven't dedicated yourself to God, you're just noise. You're just making noise. They may hear you on the outside, it's still noise. All right, go ahead.
And he brought the ark into the tabernacle, and set up the veil of the covering, and covered the ark of the testimony, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he put the table in the tent of the congregation upon the side of the tabernacle northward, without the veil. And he set the bread in order upon it before the Lord, and the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Moses. And he put the candlestick in the tent of the congregation, over against the table, on the side of the tabernacle southward. And he lighted the lamps before the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he put the golden altar in the tent of the congregation before the veil, and he burnt sweet incense thereon, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he set up the hanging at the door of the tabernacle, and he put the altar of burnt offering by the door of the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation, and offered upon it the burnt offering and the meat offering, as the Lord commanded Moses.
All right. Now, let me get that in so you know it. We're going to learn in Leviticus, and I think we learned it also in Exodus. Meat offering was not meat. It was grains. Burnt offerings was meat because they burned what they put on there except what they was cooking for the priest themselves. The burnt offering that they put on the altar, it would be burned up and the ashes would be taken out of the camp and buried. And sometimes they would take the blood and sprinkle it on a goat, and they send the goat out to camp, and they call that the scapegoat, that he was escaping with the sin. So we use that word now, scapegoat. Use me, but y'all got the other little slang now, throw me on the bus. Still saying something, escape with your sin, you say you threw me on the bus. Okay, so we see how he placed the furniture in the north. So, and then he placed some, and look at this. This, the candle here, this would be, he put it in the north. Over here, you got the south, east, the west, one of the kind. We'll learn all of this in our next chapter of Leviticus, where and why he put them, and what section he put them, and why he put everything where he put it at. But he did everything according as he had given to Moses. So there was no argument about, I think it looked better over here. Why are you putting it on this side? Anybody heard that before? Is it been, let me ask anybody, you ever had a crew that you was supposed to take something and put it someplace, and you got there and you got ready to set the stuff in, and there was always somebody said, look better over here, or why don't you move it over that way, or whatever. Were there always somebody telling you something? Any of you women's? All right, who got the mic?
And he set the laver between the tent of the congregation and the altar, and put water there to wash withal. And Moses and Aaron and his sons washed their hands and their feet 3. When they went into the tent of the congregation, and when they came near unto the altar, they washed, as the Lord had commanded Moses. And he reared up the court round about the tabernacle and the altar, and set up the hanging of the court gate. So Moses finished the work. Then a cloud covered the tent of the congregation, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. And Moses was not able to enter into the tent of the congregation, because the cloud abode thereon, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. And when the cloud was taken up from over the tabernacle, the children of Israel went onward in all their journeys. But if the cloud were not taken up, then they journeyed not till the day that it was taken up. For the cloud of the Lord was upon the tabernacle by day, and fire was on it by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel throughout all their journeys.
All right, now, they moved every time this cloud moved. And they had to take down everything here in the order that God told them to take it down. That's in Leviticus. And they had to cover it the way God told them to cover it. And they put it where the cloud was at. If they put it up and the next 3 days God moved again, they had to do the same thing again. Now, can you imagine how people would be complaining? But what do you think God was doing? He was teaching them to follow instruction. And we used to sing a song, where he leads me, I will follow. So it was, what was God teaching them? You don't have your own way in the church. I'm the head. I'm the one that's leading you. He had given them the direction, who taught. There was different people that took the fence down. And they didn't take, let me tell you, they didn't take the stuff down and tear it up. They didn't take stuff down, tearing up stuff. They took it down and they used the same thing. When they carried the altar, the ark, it had to be covered up. They could never touch it. That's why he had the poles. If they touched it, they died. The furniture here, the counters, all of these things, it had to be taken. Everything out here had to be taken. And you note that every time, and this was another challenge. You know, it would be a challenge look like to me, but it wasn't no challenge to them. The priests had to do their work barefooted. And every time that they would kill something here and go to the laven, they had to come back here and wash before they bring something else. If they didn't, they died. They did not carry another person's sin on them. So they had to, the reason why they didn't have on this garment, they had to change garments every time they did a sacrifice. Yes?
So now it was about 3 million in all the 12 tribes.
Yeah, but they was not all, it was 3 million altogether, but they were not all men and women, they was children too. Okay.
But my point is, was there a sacrifice for each person?
Once a year, every family had to make a sacrifice.
So, I don't know what the number is, but 3 million animals died? Is that,
They didn't have to kill an animal. Some of the animals, not cattle, they offered. Poor families didn't have to order a calf.
I know, it was pigeons or turtle doves
Right.
and so forth. But my point is if it was 3 million, then 3 million animals died.
No,
Per family.
per family,
Per family, okay, thank you.
per family. All right, any other questions? This is time to ask. This is out of the structure. So if there's some question that you didn't understand about any of it, you can ask it now. This is a good time to ask, all right?
Pastor, the cloud that God showed by day and the fire that He showed by night, is there any truth to what I have heard that the cloud covered the people by day to keep the heat off of them, and the fire at night to keep them warm? Does
Exactly
that
what
was
it
there any
was.
significance to that?
It was
I
a
mean, any
purpose-
truth
what-
to that?
That
Matt?
is true.
Yeah.
And it's also other purpose was that they know God had them covered and He cared for them. So long as the cloud was with them until they left out of the wilderness.
Yes. Thank you.
It was saying God, and even the other nations saw the cloud.
Yes.
They saw the cloud and they saw the fire. That's why they never came into the camp to attack them, because they feared God. Anybody else have a question? Anybody else think you have a question? Yes.
In verse 31, when it says they wash their feet, does that mean 3 times?
Is this in the 40th chapter? Okay, 31. And Moses and Aaron and his son washed their hands and their feet thereat. They washed it at the laven. Right here, that's what the laven. And the laven was a symbol of baptism. We baptized for cleansing, to be with Jesus, like Jesus. It was a symbol of that. It also was a mirror. It was a mirror. The women had to shine this brass, and they could see themselves in it. And so when the priest was coming from here to there, they could see themselves, whether they had on the clothes, whether they had any blood on them or whatever. So they cleaned themselves